Before leaving on our winter getaway to the Florida Keys, we got wind of an entertaining journalist who had written the go-to book on how to blend into Key West culture. For Midwest Outdoors, this is Mark Strand, and on our first afternoon at mile marker 0, I got to sit down with said writer, Mandy Miles. It was a fun interview, and hopefully it'll help you prepare for your own winter getaway to Key West. So here we go with Mandy Miles. If we're still on the dock at the end of the interview,
exactly. I know we're not going to get blown away.
Right? So, just housekeeping things now. We are with Mandy Miles.
Okay.
And you are, is that okay with you?
Yes, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, okay. Whatever you want to call me.
So, you are the business editor at the Key West Citizen, is that correct?
Yep.
Is that
Key West Citizen, that's the full name. Yep.
Now, is this a daily newspaper?
A daily newspaper that covers Key West to Key Largo. We're the only daily paper from Key West to Key Largo.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been around since the 1800s, as a matter of fact.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you're not the first business editor.
No, I'm the current business editor, and I certainly will not be the last business editor.
So, in addition to functioning in that editor's role with the newspaper,
right?
You write, is it a weekly column?
It's a weekly column, yes.
And it's called Tan Lines,
yes.
Right? Tell us a little bit about the concept behind Tan Lines and what you do with that one.
Thank goodness I can do sort of anything I want. The paper is I've been blessed with great editors, and as long as I don't aggravate.
I thought you were the editor.
I know, I'm the business editor, not the managing editor.
So then when you walk across to write your column, then you're no longer a big shot.
Exactly, right. Then I'm writing it for an editor, exactly.
Gotcha.
And as long as I don't advertise, as long as I don't aggravate any advertisers, then they really give me free rein. So it's basically about I think I call it a humorous look at life in Key West and the chaos of everyday life everywhere. So it's anything from a rant about people who can't park in Key West to the lack of parallel parking skills.
Just kidding.
to like the fun things to our annual Fantasy Fest event, which is in October,
right.
Our sort of answer to Mardi Gras, although it's there's a little more risque adult behavior going on. Yes,
that's what I understand.
So yeah, it's really anything, just a humor column, a humorous look at Key West and life in general. So, and that's been going on, gosh, I think I've been doing that since 17 years now.
Now you bundled together some of the columns, or maybe all of them.
Not all of them.
Tell us about the books that you have published.
I was able to, I've published two volumes of my Tan Lines columns in books.
And what are those books called?
One is called The Best of Mandy, actually it's called The Best of Mandy Boland's Tan Lines because that was my maiden name. And then I got married in 2010 and became Mandy Miles. And since I wasn't famous enough to keep my maiden name then, so I became Mandy Miles.
It actually helped you to become Mandy Miles when you are in the Keys, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because your husband is Stan Miles, world famous
He's the world
captain,
exactly. So the people who knew him, I was afraid the alliteration made me nervous. I was afraid it sounded a little bit like a stripper name. But
almost like we made it up. Well, yeah,
exactly.
I suppose.
That's what I was afraid
Right. So there's those two books, and then you also have the one that I read.
Yes, I brought that one here. Yes.
Can we show it?
I'd love to.
Camera?
Yes, of course, please.
So that we can see the
Key West do's and don'ts.
I'm sorry.
Key West do's and don'ts. 100 ways to look like a local.
That is so cool.
And it's sort of a crash course in Key West as to how to not get voted off the island, as to everything, as to how to don't misspell Hemingway or Jimmy Buffett. One M in Hemingway, 2 T's in Buffett. Even the newspaper has messed it up enough times.
Big problem
it's embarrassing.
if you do that.
It's mortifying, to be honest with you.
Now, this is one of the things I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
So let's go over some of the keys. So, get it? Keys?
Okay. Get it. You're the first person to ever say that.
As a rank newcomer to the Keys, and the people stream down here by the millions, right?
Yes.
And a lot of us are from the northern states. We come here just for a week every year to escape the cold.
And we love it. We're happy to have you.
Give us, first of all, a few of the highlights, without giving away everything in your book.
Okay.
A few of the highlights about what should we think about doing in order to not get voted off.
Oh, okay. There you go. Perfect. I would say Let's see. The biggest one is don't request Margaritaville the song unless you're in Margaritaville the bar, because no musician in town wants to play that song.
It's just way too...
We all love Jimmy Buffett.
It's just been played too many times.
It's so overplayed. It's very overplayed. And like I said, and everybody loves Jimmy Buffett. He's one of the reasons people, a lot of these people came here and found their way down here.
Even know about it, right?
Exactly.
He's one of the godfathers of fun.
Without question.
Right?
I interviewed the guy, super nice guy. He could not have been more down to earth, normal. He was in a baseball hat, t-shirt, and khaki shorts.
Actually, I think I heard that. Wasn't that one of your first, if not the first story
Yes, it was. It was. I had only been at the paper like 2 months, and it just so happened the managing editor was mad at our entertainment editor. So in order to get back at him, he gave me, the newcomer, the interview.
Because how much time does Jimmy Buffett spend on the island now?
He probably wouldn't want me to say it, but not a whole ton of time. Although, you know what? I say that, and that was the case for a while, but he has been here. He was just here a couple months ago, and he did a free impromptu concert at Margaritaville for like an hour and a half, 2 hours he played.
Oh, wow.
Just him on stage, barefoot in jeans, with no backup band, singing,
Nice.
talking to the audience. I was as close to him as he was, like a foot farther away on stage. I was in the front row. It was amazing. I mean, and
That's so cool.
I think he was having as good a time as the audience was. So he said it was great to get back to his roots, where it all started, sitting, playing in a little tiny bar on a little tiny stage, singing the songs about Key West. And like I said, everybody had a fantastic time. It was cool. It was really neat.
I understand that you should not walk into a bar in Key West,
right?
Sit down and say, "It's 5 o'clock somewhere."
Thank you. Yes,
is that true?
yes.
Or do we want to avoid that one?
Yes, some of the biggest cliches. Yes, it's 5 o'clock somewhere has been heard.
Go down.
The bartender
what are
won't
some
laugh.
others?
I would say, let's say, don't call a bartender buddy. Don't stand.
Hey, buddy.
Don't stand. Hey, and then when there's a 3 deep at the bar type of thing, don't get nasty.
Order something that requires the blender.
Exactly.
How about that?
There you go. Yeah, no blender drinks when it's happy hour and they're 3 deep. You're not going to be real popular, unless you're waving like a $20 or $100 bill tip around. But
that could be a difference
that
maker.
could be. Yeah, it's exactly. Let's see. Learn to parallel park is one of them. Absolutely pay attention to one-way streets, because there's a lot of people that go the wrong way down a one-way street.
And there's a lot of one-way streets.
There are a lot of them, a lot of
West,
narrow streets. It's an old town. Obviously, old town downtown area was laid out before cars were around.
So horses.
Absolutely,
basically.
yeah.
You know what? And I did have a question that I don't know if you'll know this one or not, but do you know about when they finished building roads and bridges connecting these keys so that you could just drive all the way to Key West?
The road was finished connecting Key West to the mainland in 1912. It started out as the railroad. It wasn't a highway. It was Flagler's Railroad.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yep, that was finished in 1912. And it was, they put in like the final tracks, and the first engine train arrived here in Key West from Miami in April, I believe it was, 1912. It was actually right around the time that the Titanic sank. So that was so that started in 1912, and that operated actually bringing people and supplies down. It really linked Key West to the mainland and changed the world, because up before then it was this harbor was
only by boats,
the access.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah. Only by boats, and it had been that way since the 1800s, since 1600s, 1700s. But once the railroad came, that operated until 1935. It was actually blown off of the off of the tracks by the Labor Day hurricane of 1935, which hit up in the Upper Keys around Isla Morada, Matacumbi Key, in the 70 or 80 mile marker. Yeah, devastating. That one was devastating. Obviously, they had less prediction then and didn't have as much time to get out.
Right.
So there were a lot of railroad workers were still living here, and they got, they were lost in the storm. There were families that were lost. One of the train engines had come down to rescue people, to evacuate them, and that got blown off the tracks. So after that, it was no longer feasible. The tracks had been so damaged that they didn't rebuild and reinstitute the railroad. But they did leave all of the pilings and everything in the road bed that had been laid for the railroad. They turned that into the highway. So I think that opened in the highway, and I might get this wrong, but it's probably the 40s or 50s that you could start driving down here.
So in the years when Ernest Hemingway lived here at what they call the Hemingway House now,
right.
What years
He was here in the 1930s, 40s, I believe in the 1940s.
So when he first came here, it was not by car.
No, he would have gotten here by boat, yeah. And he ordered a car here, was one of the reasons he had come here. And he had stayed in on Simonton Street in a place while he was waiting for the car to be delivered here. I'm not sure if it was
Buick,
coming.
I believe.
Well, I think so. Yeah, it was, and he was waiting here. I don't know if the car was coming down the highway road or if it was coming on a ship. That's, to be honest with you, I don't know. But they moved everything by ship back then. There were entire houses that were reconstructed here that were moved over from the Bahamas. Yeah, they would dismantle it, put them on a barge or a ship, and then bring them over and reassemble them here from the Bahamas. Wow. So yeah.
Since you wrote the book, How to Not Get Voted, the 100 do's, what is it called?
Key West do's and don'ts, 100 ways to look like a local.
Key West do's and don'ts since you published this book.
Right.
List a few of the pet peeves that have occurred to you since then.
Oh my goodness.
What secrets can you offer us that aren't even in the book?
Oh my gosh,
okay.
Let me think. I know, because since this came out, there's been so many other suggestions from people
saying,
hey, what's volume 2? This needs to do you need to do volume 2. Yes. So the one thing that people laugh about is because Key West does have a number of gay people in town. We have a huge, all welcome, gay friendly population and everything. But it's hilarious because there is a phenomenon when it just so happens occasionally that two straight guys have to rent, they end up on a rental scooter together. One of them loses theirs, one of them loses their keys, one of their scooters won't start. So you end up with the phenomenon we call it of two straight guys on a scooter. And the two guys for small scooters.
So that's a term.
Yes, exactly. And they couldn't possibly get farther apart to prove that they're straight as they're sitting.
Maybe one guy's turned backwards.
If they could turn backwards, they would. So that's what somebody had pointed out to me recently. They said, you should include that in volume 2. And then let's see what else. I'm trying to remember what else.
Yeah, so you've made some notes, I bet, for
yes, of course.
What you're going to do next, right?
Yes, there will be a volume 2 of the Key West do's and don'ts. Nice. I'll do a volume 3 of my Tan Lines book, and then a couple other ones. I had actually thought I'm originally from the South Jersey Shore at a resort town there, so I might write a hometown book about my hometown of Ocean City, New Jersey. Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute because we did it a little bit casually.
Right.
Tell us about. You didn't grow up on Key West, just like an awful lot of people, maybe even most.
I would say the majority of people did not grow up here. Yes.
So where were you born? Where were you raised? And how did you end up down here on Key West?
I was born in South Jersey, not in Ocean City, but I was born in South Jersey. And then when I was real little, we lived for 5 years in the Midwest. So I lived in St. Louis, Kansas City, and Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was
right in our audience.
I know.
Area,
oh, really?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we cover 12 states in the Midwest.
Oh, good. So. There you go. I was in St. Louis, Overland Park, Kansas, right in Kansas City,
yes.
and Omaha, Nebraska. Until I was like in 3rd grade. Then we moved back to that's when we moved to Ocean City, New Jersey, which is where my mom had grown up, and my my grandmother was from. All my mom's family was from Ocean City, so we moved back there. My parents bought my grandmother's old guest house at the shore. So I grew up in a guest house, so it was funny. The living room in the wintertime would become the lobby in the summertime.
Not unlike the Curry Mansion where
exactly.
we're staying in Key West,
yes.
Right?
We had less doilies at our place.
I suppose, right.
But that was a great place to grow up. So it had the beach and the boardwalk and everything. I absolutely loved it. Ocean City is a fantastic place. It's a barrier island, a half-mile wide, 6 miles long. And then I went to college in North Carolina at Elon. It was Elon College when I was there. I'm showing my age. Now it's Elon University in North Carolina. And then I got a job.
There is a distinction. There's a definition of. I'm going to turn my microphone against the hurricane that decided to come up today.
I know exactly, with 0 warning. I know we usually get more warning about hurricanes here.
This is kind of a good wind, isn't it?
It's a hefty wind, especially for February. It's sort of, the fishermen are not happy with it. None of the boaters are. The fishermen, the snorkelers, every boater is. That's why all the boats. Normally, all these boats aren't here. They're out.
So then you went to college there,
right?
And then how did you end up though in Key West?
In Key West, I had started the family that I worked for in the summertime at the Jersey Shore. They owned a bathing suit shop, clothing store on the boardwalk in Ocean City. They always spent their winters in the Keys. They wintered up in Isla Mirada. I'm pointing up that way as if you can see it, but it's mile marker 88.
Up there
yeah,
in
exactly.
Isla Mirada.
So, and I was 15 or 16 and was good friends with their daughter, so I would come down here for my spring breaks in high school with them. I mean, it wasn't like a college spring break, but I did that too. So
that was your introduction to this
That
area.
was my introduction. I would stay with them in Isla Mirada, and we'd always come to Key West for a day or a night to see it. And I knew since I was 16 that I wanted to live in Key West. It was amazing.
That was my next question. Okay, so something about this place grabbed your heart.
Yeah.
So what was it?
I can't. It's almost like you can't put your finger on it, but when you get here, you feel that anytime you spend anywhere else is sort of is wasted. It's like any other time it could be spent in Key West.
So you literally started to think of this as your home, even though you didn't live here yet.
Yes, exactly. And that was, like I said, I was in high school then. Then I went to college in North Carolina, and then we come down on spring break trips with girlfriends, road trips, drinking on a fake ID and all that. And then I
yeah, but we wouldn't know. It wasn't you. It was you.
That was somebody else. Somebody
heard that.
Someone
from
who
some
wasn't
of
me.
your
What do they do it
friends.
online? The someone who isn't me did this. Never.
Right.
I think that whatever statutes has run out of that.
Yeah.
So that was always throughout college, and then I started scuba diving in college. Was the other sort of thing that clinched it for me. So
Are you still a diver now?
I am certified diver, and love it. I haven't been in a while. Everybody moves down here and then doesn't dive as much as they hope they will.
Well, you get busy doing your job.
You actually have to
right?
work. I know it's not always on vacation down here.
So
which
how
gets in
did
the
you
way.
land the job at the newspaper?
I graduated from college in 1998 with a English and journalism degree. Knew I wanted to live in the Keys. That was sort of without question. Even if I didn't get a job in my field, I was going to wait tables, bartend down here type of thing. I was coming here no matter what. And so I sent my resume out. There's the Key West Citizen is the only daily paper, but there's several weekly newspapers around.
Oh, there are?
Yes,
okay.
yeah. So I had sent my resume to all of those right sort of at the end of college, and after graduation went home to the Jersey Shore for that summer in May of '98 after I graduated. And then my mom and I came down for a week of interviews. I had set up the interviews to follow up from the resumes I had sent.
Cool.
Yeah, it was neat. And then I walked into the Citizen, and the editor was a guy named Bernie Hunt, was a British guy, and he sat me down and he said, "Have a seat, somebody just quit, sit down and tell me why I should hire you." And I said, I was 22 years old and terrified.
Okay, so you didn't really seize that moment the way you wish you would.
I wish I would have. You know, it's like I wish I had come out with, like, you know, just wowed him. But I did. Apparently I did okay. So he sent me out to do a story. Hang on one second.
Sure.
So we chatted. He liked me. He sent me out on an assignment to do. It was some test assignment I had to do. I had to go over to the health department and do a quick interview and a story about a blood drive. There was a shortage of blood in the blood bank, but there was a shortage.
You still remember?
I remember it clearly because then I had to come back to the Citizen and write the story, and they sit me down at a computer and the keyboard had no letters on it. There was and it was so old that all the letters on the keyboard had been worn off. So here I am.
How to type.
I was going to say exactly.
There was no cheating.
I said, "Is this a test?" I said, "Is this like a candid camera thing? There's no letters on this keyboard." So apparently the story turned out all right because he liked me and he called me that night and offered me a job. So I was here a week or two later.
That's awesome.
I know. It was cool. And actually I was about to leave. I was sending resumes out because I figured I was never going to find a husband in a town that's, 50%, 60% gay. I thought I had dated all the straight guys and half the gay guys in town. But then Stan and I got together, so it worked out fine.
Yeah, real quickly, tell us how you met Stan. And I think you were playing poker together.
We used to play poker,
right?
yes. We were friends, and he had actually, he had been living behind. There was a sort of a shared compound with a shared pool where he had an apartment, and some friends of mine lived in the front apartment. So we knew each other for a long time, both of us dating other people off and on. And then eventually we would always play poker every Friday night at his house. And one thing led to another.
Okay, but there has to be more detail than that. Like, one night, did you just kind of look at each other, or did one of the two of you say?
Sort of, yeah. We both
why
ended up.
are
It
we
was
not
like sort of,
dating
yes.
each
That's what it
other?
was. Yeah. And apparently he had thought I had known that he liked me for a while, and I was oblivious. So he said, "I can't believe you didn't know that." And I said, "No." I said, "I had no idea."
And usually it would be the other way around,
Exactly.
or stereotypically it's
exactly
the other way
right.
around,
Yeah. So
right?
apparently he said, "I can't believe you didn't know that." I said, "I had no idea. I wasn't paying attention. I thought we were just friends." So he said, "Well, can we change that?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." Let's
get out of the friend zone.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So Hurricane Irma hit here just
5
months ago.
Yeah.
And I think you were saying that it is a misnomer that, you know, the Florida Keys were turned upside down, and if you come down here, all you're going to see is everybody's feet sticking up toward the sky?
It's the biggest misnomer. It's done more, that mistake, the media mistake has done more damage to us here tourism-wise than the hurricane actually did.
So what is the state of
Key West,
the Florida Keys?
Well, you're
right
here.
now?
I don't think Key West itself, let's just have a little geography lesson, that the Florida Keys are an island chain 120 miles long. Key West is at the southern end of it. Key Largo is at the top of it, and there's several individual towns and islands along the way.
Right.
So when they say the Florida Keys were devastated by a hurricane, that's a 100-mile stretch. That would be a big swath of destruction. The hurricane itself, Hurricane Irma, on the morning of Sunday, September 10th, it crossed the Florida Keys at mile marker 17, which is about 17 miles, obviously, up from where we are now at mile marker 1.
Right, because we're at mile marker 0.
Yes, 0 and 1, yeah.
0 and 1.
So it crossed 17 miles up, and obviously Key West did. The boats that you'll see out here, they got tossed, busted loose from their moorings and everything. Key West escaped. We were on the weak side of the storm. Key West escaped the vast majority of damage. We lost a lot of trees. We lost some trees blew over onto roofs, onto cars, that type of thing. But we had no structures blow over. We had no, trailers blow over. Nothing. Key West had a huge yard cleanup to do.
It's not the general understanding of a lot of people,
It's not.
is it?
No. And then, the national media, when the storm did look really bad, they had pulled all of their reporters out of here, so they didn't even have anybody on the ground after the storm to say, hey, Key West survived, we're here.
They should have called you.
I know, I was here.
I
worked for the local paper, and I was here, and we walked around. Now, there were, the blocks around downtown were flooded. There was some flooding, 1.5 feet, 2 feet of flooding, so we were waiting around looking at damage, but that happens at high tides in storms, so it's not a huge deal. And then now the difficulties was that all communications were wiped out. We had no cell service, no phone service, no landline service. There were some landlines that worked, but we had no cell, no internet, no electricity, and no water. Actually, no city water. So you had to but that living in the Keys, you have a hurricane supplies.
Just in case we don't get a chance to speak with Stan.
Right.
You know a lot about, especially because you see him every day pretty much,
yes.
Except when he's out to sea in Cuba or
right.
something like that. How is the fishing? Because especially our audience.
Oh, your audience, yes. Let's talk about fishing, absolutely.
Coming down here in the winter to catch some fish. Did all the fish get killed in the hurricane?
No,
and there's no
not
fish
at
to
all.
Catch, or
no,
what?
And I don't know where they go. I don't know if anybody knows where they go, but they made it. They survived. Stan came home 2 days ago with 12 tuna, so he was thrilled. And I'm married to a charter fisherman.
Was there a period of time when the fishing was not as good in the immediate aftermath?
Absolutely, in the immediate aftermath. And like I said, and it was a good 2 weeks before we had all of our utilities back on and everything else. So nobody was, tourists weren't here. Even the locals who had evacuated weren't allowed to come back for 2 weeks until we got
So if there were fish biting, nobody knew about it.
And they had actually physically, the authorities had closed the water because there was also so many lost boats and lobster traps and everything that there were so many unseen submerged hazards. Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of hazards to navigation that just weren't mapped, that nobody knew about. So for about the first 2 weeks, 2 weeks to a month, I would say, Stan was actually working for a salvage company, a towboat company, lifting boats, hauling boats on a crane out of the water. Yeah.
So he's a handy guy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he'll do it all. He's doing like I said, a dive job today, cleaning the bottom of a boat. So because it's so windy, The
bottom line is, members of the Midwest Outdoors audience,
right.
If we come down here to escape the cold in the winter,
yes.
we're going to catch fish.
You'll catch
in
fish.
The Florida Keys, aren't we?
Absolutely. Keys wide throughout the whole 100 miles. And it's also, and you have your pick, whether it's, trophy fish, are you going for sailfish, tarpon, like the mounts that you see?
Sure, the marlin.
Yeah, the marlin, the sailfish that Hemingway caught. Or are you looking for meat fish for the fresh, tuna, dolphin, grouper, I'm sorry, I said dolphin, but it's mahi-mahi as they call it. And that, which is, you can, in Wahoo, you can get the same, you can also get the same ones on one trip. And all the captains down here are fantastic. They want everybody to catch a fish. So whether you're catching, barracuda and kingfish, or if you're a seasoned veteran fisherman and you want to go out to the blue water, you can do inshore flat water if it's windy. It's probably a little too windy today to do it, but
it is windy.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think there's much fishing going on. But we've got flats guys who do the bonefish, tarpon, and permit. from the little tiny flat bottom bay
Does
boats.
Stan do any of that?
He is
fishing?
not. He gets frustrated because you have to be really good to be a fly fisherman, and a lot of the clients, if the clients aren't good, he ends up with a hook in his leg. So that gets old.
Leg, eye, side of his head. etc.
Yeah, that
So,
gets old.
in our dream world, though,
Yeah.
if we were going to hire the ultimate fishing guide, who would we
Captain
look
Stan
to?
Miles. fishstanmiles@gmail.com.
Fish Stan Miles
Right?
at gmail.com.
Yes, sir.
That's how we reach
Or the
him.
phone number, 305-797-3116. We're just getting his website done, so we're redoing his website.
I saw
So
that, I
yes,
saw that.
with
Now,
my
I have a
QS
few-
podcast website.
I have a few other questions for you, too.
Okay.
You listed some things that we should do
Good.
as well, right?
Good, absolutely.
So
Yes,
there's
it's
some-
definitely not an all negative book. No, it's absolutely some of the good things.
There's some don'ts, but there are some do's. You mentioned that one of the things that we should do while we're down here is hunt for ghosts and explore Old Town.
Oh, that's great,
With
yes.
David Sloan's Key West Ghost Hunt. And you mentioned that David is also a pretty great writer. And you can find his and other other books by local authors at the Key West Island Books
Yes.
on Fleming Street.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about this hunting for ghosts.
Oh, it's so much fun.
What
I've
do
done
we
it.
do there?
You walk around Old Town, which is our downtown area, and has the vast majority of our historic homes. Actually, Key West has the largest collection of historic wooden structures in the country. Key West Old Town
It's
does.
amazing because when you think about, they all don't get blown away
I know, and
periodically by
hey, they were all built by old
storms, right?
shipwrights who know how to build them strong, and they used old mahogany wood, and they stand up. It's amazing.
I'll be darned.
So, but yeah, so you walk. It's a foot tour, and you walk around Old Town, and there's several historic structures that or that are legend rumored to be haunted. So David Sloan had written a book years ago called Ghosts of Key West, that he had done all the research on the hauntings and talked to people who had seen things, and whether you believe or not, it's a good read to hear the legends. And then he started a ghost hunt that talks about the history and the architecture of the homes and the people who lived there, as well as the hauntings and everything else. So it's a fascinating tour. And then he's got the sort of the equipment that you see on these ghost hunting shows with the infrared thermometers or whatever they are.
And there's also some things where you can pick up like audio.
Yeah, some
signals
audio
and
stuff.
Like
yes,
that,
yes,
right?
yep.
Okay, so you
All
get all
that
that.
paranormal type of stuff.
You
yes,
get all that.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. And you also urge us to take a train or trolley tour. So we're going to be identifying ourselves as tourists
Yes,
while we're
you
riding
shall.
around
Yes, you
in
will.
the
You're not
train
going to
tour.
fit in, yeah.
But you mentioned that it's a good idea for a variety of reasons, and what are they?
It is. It's the best way to get the feel and the landscape of Key West, and it takes you all around. There's a conch tour train, is a 90-minute tour again, and that's on a train that's predominantly through Old Town, but it'll point out 100 different landmarks. You'll see the southernmost point. You'll see, the oldest Catholic church, all the historic stuff, current stuff that's going on as well. But it really gives you a feel for the layout as to like what ends the water's at, what side of the island you're on. And it's fully narrated. It's super easy.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
really
so
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
So we
yeah.
should do that, and then we can hop back off the train and pretend like we live here.
Exactly. Then you
right?
try and fit back in. Exactly.
All
yes.
right. You also mentioned that we should go to a free outdoor movie.
Yes.
Is it Ibis Bay?
Ibis Bay or Bayview Park. I think they each do them. Ibis Bay is a resort that has a huge pool.
And do these run in the winter time
Yes,
as well?
yes.
Okay.
They're usually, I think they each do once a month. So there's one like the last Friday of the month at Bayview Park, which is all
so
free.
this is not an every
Not
night
an every
thing,
night thing, right? A lot of
so
them.
if you happen to be here at the right time, why is that such a cool deal?
It's just neat that they do it for free, and one of them is the Bayview Park one is kids movies, so it's all families that people forget that Key West is sort of an adult party drinking town.
I'm going to get to that as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Bayview Park is always a kid-friendly movie, and they've got a Facebook page where they actually put up a couple that give people a choice, so they let them vote, and then they show the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, the families bring coolers and blankets and everything else, and watch that. And then the Ibis Bay one, I believe, is not an adult movie, but
Old
it's
reruns of Fantasy Fest highlight films.
I don't
or
think
what?
it's not an adult movie, but it's not a kid's movie.
Okay, got it. And you said that we should also take a nap in a hammock whenever possible. So is napping in a hammock considered a reasonable way to pass the
Oh,
time?
absolutely, completely acceptable. Yeah.
Are there any public hammocks where you can just walk up to them and hop in?
I have not seen any. I know there's tons at all the hotels and resorts, but I'm
So you
trying
have
to think.
oh, okay. So if you're staying at a hotel,
Yes, most of those will have a hammock. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so hop in, and that's a cool thing.
Yeah, we've got one on our back porch.
Even among the locals, that's considered
Yes,
kind of a
absolutely.
okay thing to do.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know whether that's specific to Key West, but anywhere it's warm, that I would say.
Another one of my questions is, I see these written about all the time. What is so special about Spanish limes?
Spanish limes. Oh God, you read about them a lot?
Yeah.
They're hilarious. They're great. Now they ripen in like August, late summer,
Oh, okay.
and
We
they
can't
don't
get 'em in
sell them. You
February
can't get them in
and March.
February, and they don't even sell them because they're almost like this free little snack on a tree, and you can pick them. They're hang on one sec. You pick them from the tree. They're a little, probably the size of a golf ball, and you sort of bite into a thick skin and then peel it, cracks off, and there is this like sort of slimy grape. It almost tastes like a grape I guess it's in the grape family, but the juice is so sweet, they're dynamite. But like I said, I don't think you can do anything with them because they're mostly seed that you sort of just suck on the seed.
So these would not be the ultimate lime to squeeze in your
No, that's a key
cocktail.
lime. That would be more of a key lime. Spanish lime,
Okay.
it's a bit of, Spanish lime is a bit of a misnomer because they are more sort of like it's mainly juice and a seed that you
Not
sort
really
of
a
suck
lime
on.
at all.
Not at all,
But
no.
it's a rare treat if you happen to be down here in what you
August,
said,
September,
August,
yep.
September.
Yep.
All right. You also mentioned that we should light a candle at the grotto at the Basilica of St. Mary,
Absolutely.
Star of the Sea, because the legend has it apparently that Key West will never again feel the direct force of a hurricane as long as the
grotto stands. And
So
it worked. I lit my candle before Hurricane Irma, and we're still here today. So
Did you really?
Yep.
And so I would like you to point me in the direction of that place. To where is that?
That is on Truman Avenue. It's a beautiful old church. It's one of the oldest churches in Florida, actually. But it's on Truman Avenue, and sort of that way, sort of right in the middle of town.
Okay, so
not far.
And we can just go in there.
Yes, if you're looking at the
As
front of
long
the
as there's
church.
not a
Oh yeah,
service
exactly. And the
going
grotto
on.
is actually to the right, so it's outside, so you can go there anytime, even if there is a
Oh,
service
okay.
going on. Yeah.
All right.
The grotto is basically like it's a stone chapel outside.
Nice.
So and there's sort of like there's statues and stuff like that, but you'll see all the candles
And the
lit.
candles
Yeah.
will be there, and lighting
Absolutely.
implements will be nearby.
Yes, yep, absolutely. They have matches and everything else. So yeah, it's a popular spot when all TVs in town are turned to the Weather Channel, watching an ominous blob work its way off the
We're all
coast of
down there
Africa.
waiting in line to light our
Exactly. That's part of our
candles.
hurricane preparations. Actually, is going to the grotto.
Wow. Let's talk about this for just a minute. The notion that Key West in particular,
Right.
among all the keys, is thought of, or the stereotype is perhaps that it's wild, it's a party place.
Right. Now, where would they have gotten that idea?
I have no idea, but we would never want to bring our kids down here.
Right.
What is the reality, and are there any seasonal considerations?
I would say the only time kids would not, I would think twice about bringing them to Fantasy Fest in October. That's late October. It's Key West's answer to Mardi Gras, and that is an adult celebration for 10 days without question. That's our
So
little
late
bacchanalia.
October, take your kids someplace else.
Yes. Any
Okay.
other time, Key West, we have the Disney cruise ship that comes here once a week. It's fantastic. They have a great time. The kids go snorkeling. The kids can go fishing. The kids are out on every boat. And my theory is too, if you're going to a warm weather place, if you put a kid by a pool at any hotel, it doesn't matter what city you're in. Exactly.
They
They're
might
going to
not
be happy
even know
in
the rest of the world.
That's what I was going to say. They don't even know what city they're in. They're just at a hotel pool in February, loving it. But no, like I said, there's plenty of stuff for kids to do. There's shops. There's the museum. We have the Mel Fisher Museum is filled with treasure from a shipwreck of a Spanish galleon. That's
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Emerald rings and gold and emerald crosses that were found. $400 million worth of gold, silver, and emerald treasure was found here in 1980 by treasure hunter Mel Fisher. So he found it in a museum with a bunch of the artifacts. And the kids love that. There's a butterfly museum. So yeah, I mean, we actually, surprisingly, contrary to popular belief, there's even 3 grade schools and a high school here in town. So
Yeah. So the stereotype, and sometimes I think we might be guilty of building it ourselves in our own mind. So if we are thinking that Key West in particular is not a place to bring our families. That it's kind of a au contraire.
Yes, I think
right?
so. Yeah, absolutely. Now, without question, you could also have a good time if you leave the kids with their grandparents and have a good time. There is a very, very active nightlife scene in Key West. Our bars are open until 4 a.m. Duval Street is our main drag. That's sort of our Bourbon Street.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you can drive up and down, but
You can drive
a lot
up
of
and
people
down.
just walk up and down
They
Duval
wander, yes.
Street,
You
right?
can, exactly. You can go and get a drink. You can take your drink, get your drink to go in a plastic cup and walk to the next bar or restaurant. So, and that's not necessarily, obviously that's not kid friendly when it's bar hopping, but there's also shops there and t-shirt shops and shopping during the day. So,
right.
But there is, without question, there are plenty of attractions. The train and the trolley are good for kids. The Mel Fisher Museum and anything on the water or the beaches are great. Jet ski tours, everything like that is kid friendly. But I wouldn't take them down to Duval Street at 3 in the morning. You might want to keep them out of the drag
to Duval
shows.
Street at 3 in the morning myself.
So
now,
are you trying to look like a local here? Is this the plan? We've got our work to do.
I
I'll
was-
help you. I can help you.
so you wrote the book, I understand.
I did. I wrote the book called Key West Do's and Don'ts, 100 Ways to Look Like a Local, and we have some work to do, sir.
So, so have a look. Now, I was kind of going, this was my Key West look I was going for, so just give me a little critique.
Okay, well, we gotta turn
first
the
of all-
glare down on the white skin. Okay, now we can't hold that against you being from Minnesota. But that'll take time. That takes time. Or spray tans. We can work on that. You do have a performance fishing shirt on. That's a huge deal. That's great.
That counts. You
That
mean?
counts. That's
Oh,
a good.
so it's
That
not
counts.
too
One in the
bulky?
good column.
All
Yes,
right,
one in the
all
good
right.
column. The shorts could be a little lighter weight. They could be.
So these are, so nobody wears these kind of shorts
They're a little
anymore?
heavy. They're gonna be a little heavy, and a lot of the shorts most of the shorts you see around here on guys are quick dry because they're in and out of the water. So these would get a little heavy.
These take like 3 weeks to dry.
I was just
on their
gonna
own?
say, exactly. Walking around, you might have a chafing issue when they get wet. And let's lose the socks and sneakers and get some flip flops on.
So just, okay, so you can't wear socks with your shoes down here?
God, not with sandals, but all right, you can wear socks. It's just not typical.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so how many years am I away from
We can
looking
get you
like
in
I
there
live
and
down here?
We can get you looking like you live here within the year, I'd say.
Within a year.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
like next year I could come down here at the same time and we could do like a
We'll do a sort of a
do
make.
kind of a
It'll be like a
makeover.
makeover, exactly. Before and after. There you go.
Mandy's makeover.
Exactly.
So we're not completely hopeless, but,
No,
but it's
there is
going to take a
absolutely
lot of
hope.
work.
There's hope for everybody. Yes, there is hope for everybody. Yes. So we got it, but we gotta get some sun on those legs.
So the bottom line, what does it take, attitude-wise, planning-wise, etc., to come down and have a good time on a winter getaway?
It just
in
takes
Key
a
West?
willingness to have a good time. Key West, if you can't have a good time in Key West, it's like not having a good time at a wedding, in my opinion. Then there's something wrong with you.
It's
There,
your fault.
Exactly, it's your fault. Key West is open to everybody, and it's anything you want it to be, and it's everything you want it to be. Whether you want the water, whether you want the beach, a hotel pool, a hammock in the sun. If you just want warm weather and really cool people, and then the other thing is just sort of an open-mindedness, because you will absolutely meet people and see things that you've never seen before. So
It's a matter of how you react to that, then, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mandy Miles,
Mark.
thank you so much for taking
Thank
time to come
you.
on today.
Thank you, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm flattered. Thank you so much.
Thanks for braving the hurricane winds
I know,
and the
this
brief
unpredicted
rainstorm.
hurricane.
We had to scream our way through this, but I think it turned out great.
I really
so
enjoyed it. This was great. Thank
it was
you.
great to meet you.
Come on back
too.
down, and we'll check in. We'll see how your local lessons are doing.
All right. Next year we'll do
All
it
right,
over.
good. Perfect.